Map and setup for the 1798 scenario, the Egyptian adventure. Napoleon starts his Egyptian adventure here, and in order to win the game, he needs to take control of all of these objectives and to retain control of Alexandria, which he has at the beginning. If he manages to do that, then the level of victory is determined based on victory points. Napoleon earns victory points for each unit of his army that survived the adventure, so you already know it's going to be tough, because when you get victory points just for surviving, well, it's not going to be that easy to survive. And also he gets extra victory points if he takes control of Acre all the way up there, which is not going to be easy because Acre is very well fortified. However, there's also a defeat condition, that is, if Napoleon loses control of Alexandria at the end of a turn, then he loses the game immediately. At the beginning of the game, there aren't too many enemy units on the map. There's a group of enemies here in Cairo. There are enemy units here. They're outside of the map. I placed them there as a reminder. They will enter the game as soon as Napoleon enters the Jaffa area. And by that time, Napoleon may be already tired, because of all the marching and fighting to get there. As if that wasn't enough, there is this pile, pretty substantial pile. Let me show it to you. Very substantial pile of enemy units that are waiting to enter the game. They will enter the game later in the game. Starting from this turn, you will start rolling to see when they enter. You do not know exactly when they're entering the game. The trickiest thing, however, is that when they enter the game, they show up here in Alexandria. So if your forces are stretched around the map, if you are too far from Alexandria, then they take control of Alexandria from you and you lose the game immediately. So very tricky. Also, there are all sorts of special rules here to simulate how hard it is to wage a campaign in this landscape and in the harsh weather and the harsh conditions of Northern Africa. For example, each time that Napoleon moves his units, he needs to really die, because units may suffer damage just from that, from traveling in such circumstances. Also, refitting units costs much more than it costs in other campaigns. Most scary of all is the fact that starting from this turn here, in which Napoleon receives a kind of very weak reinforcement, more or less symbolic help than anything, but starting from this turn here, Napoleon will not be able to purchase new units. This is terrible. As I understand the rules, I think he's still allowed to refit units, but once they're gone, they're gone. And that can be particularly tricky, trust me. So Napoleon needs to find a balance between keeping a certain momentum, just to make sure that he can take control of the objectives before the game is over, and possibly before people here build too strong a defense against him. But at the same time, he needs to time things well, meaning to take enough breaks during the campaign to refit units that will be exhausted by the fight and just by the journey, because again, if he loses them, then they cannot come back, so that can be tragic. Interesting scenario. I find it particularly challenging. Maybe if I'll play it more, I'll find ways to win more often or to win with better results. But for now, I enjoy it precisely because it presents a couple of very interesting challenges.